Questions 19 through 22 all refer to information in a long passage, so it's best to use your time effectively and tear through the information in the text which you can then refer to afterwards. So I'll start by reading through it. Sugary drink consumption is linked to weight gain and a host of obesity-related diseases, including type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, and some cancers. Sugary drinks contain empty calories. 330 ml of sugary drink typically provides 35 grams, or 9 lumps, of sugar, but no other nutritional value. Because liquid calories don't make us feel full, we don't compensate by eating fewer calories from solid food. Soft drinks are the single largest source of sugar for teens and kids aged between 4 and 10 years old. According to the National Diet and Nutrition Survey data from 2008 to 2012, 30% of sugar intake for teenagers, 17% for 4 to 10-year-olds, and 12% for 1.5 to 3-year-olds all come from sugary drinks, In part, due to the high consumption of sugary drinks, teenagers consume 50% more sugar than currently recommended. Two options exist for using taxation to reduce the consumption of sugary drinks. Option 1, a volume tax, proportional to the volume of the drink. Option 2, sales tax, proportional to the price of the drink. According to the British Soft Drinks Association, 5,727 million litres were consumed in 2011. There is evidence that a tax on consumption can have progressive health benefits, as poorer people suffer disproportionately from diet-related illness. Research on tobacco and alcohol, for example, has shown that a tax leads to a decrease in consumption. The revenue from the duty can then be used to fund programs that have a significant impact on children from low-income households, such as free, high-quality school meals. So now that we know where all our information is, we can turn to our questions. 19 asks us how many lumps of sugar, so how many lumps of sugar would a 2-litre bottle of sugary drink typically be equivalent to? Well, we know from earlier where to find our fact that 330 ml is 35 grams or 9 lumps. So 330 ml or 0.330 litres is 9 lumps. Therefore, we can assume that 27 lumps would be in 1 litre, 27 lumps in 1 litre and 54 lumps in 2 litres. So we can say our answer is C. We can move on to question 20, where we're told that if teenagers consumed only 1/3 as much sugar from sugary drinks, so 1/3 of the sugary drink level, how would their sugar intake compare to the recommended level? Well, let's jump back to where we were talking about the recommended level of teenagers' drinks, of sugar consumption. So teenagers consume 50% more sugar than recommended, and 30% of their sugar intake comes from sugary drinks. So if this was reduced by 1/3, how would this impact on the level, on how teenage consumption relates to the recommended level? So teenage consumption we know to be 50% more than required, than recommended, so that's 150% consumed in total. Of this 150%, we're told that 30% comes from sugary drinks. So what is 30% of 150%? Well, that's 30% plus half of 30%, so 45% of this intake, relative to the daily recommended level, comes from sugary drinks. So if this value here was reduced to 1/3 of its original value, it would be reduced to 15%. So that would be net minus 30%. So our new percentage would be 150 minus 30%, which is 120%, which is 20% above the recommended level. So we can say our answer is C. Moving on to question 21, we're told if a volume tax of 20p per litre resulted in a 10% drop in sales of sugary drinks compared to 2011, what would be the total amount of revenue from the tax generated? So we've instituted our volume tax, we've changed behaviour, dropping sales by 10%. Now what would be the tax revenue from this decreased amount of consumption? So let's go to the consumption. We can see that in 2011 we had 5,727 million litres consumed. So we'll write that down, and decreasing that by 10%, well, what's 10% of 5727? It's about 570 million, so we can subtract that from 5727. Well, 5727 minus 500 would be 5227 minus another 70, that's 5157. Okay, now that we have that, let's work out so we know how much volume we have, we just need to work out how much we're paying. So we have 20p per litre, so in a million litres we'd have 20 million p, which is £200,000 obviously, but because all our answers are given in millions, we can say that's 0.2 million. So that's how much we get from a single million. Okay, but we have 5157 million. So let's multiply our 5157 by 0.2 million. Well, an easy way of doing that is just dividing by 5. So let's do that. 5157, we'll use short division. Well, 5 goes into 5 just the once, carrying over nothing. 5 doesn't go into 1, but it does go into 15 if we carry over the 1. And then we have nothing left over, but it only goes into 7 once. So we can see that our answer is 1031 million, which tells us that our answer is C. Finally, question 22 asks us, which of the following, if true, would most weaken the argument for a sales rather than a volume tax? Option A, when products are subject to a sales tax, retailers are known to reduce their purchase price in order to become competitive. So, for example, if there was a sales tax levied of 20%, then the retailers may decrease the price of the drink by 20% so that the consumer faces no increase in price and the product remains competitive, but that wouldn't have the effect of reducing consumption. So this is a serious argument against the sales tax. Option B, most food products have a volume tax. Well, this is irrelevant to the discussion of whether liquid sugary drinks should have a sales rather than a volume tax, as they each come up with a unique set of requirements and characteristics. So option C says, sugary drinks haven't increased in price as much as healthy options. Well, this is actually an argument for the sales tax, because if you were to increase the price of the sugary drinks via taxation, they would cost as much as the healthy options, so you'd be as likely to pick the healthy options as the sugary drinks, which would no longer be cheaper. So this is not an argument which would weaken the argument for a sales tax. So this is not what we want. Option D says, the description of sugary drinks doesn't include all types of drinks which contain high sugar. Well, this may well be the case, but this has nothing to do with the argument between sales and volume. Finally, E says, the money raised from a tax on sugary drinks will be used for initiatives to improve school meals. Now, this may be the case, but this has nothing to do with the discussion between sales and volume taxes. So we can say, finally, that our answer must be A, because this specifically targets sales tax and offers an argument against them in favour of the volume tax.